as these lies, and there's so many of them, as these lies unravel and get exposed, confidence is going to break more and more and more, to the point where something somewhere, I can't tell you what it is, I can't tell you which of the 5 areas it will be, geopolitics, politics, finance, I don't know what area it's going to be, but something is going to break. And as everything else is boiling, everything else is going to break.
The dollar was on course to snap a 6-week winning streak against major peers on Friday, as it headed into a pivotal monthly U.S. jobs report, likely to inform the path for Federal Reserve policy over coming months. The U.S. currency dipped to a 1-week low against the yen, weighed down by slumping Treasury yields after a volatile week when overall soft economic data tempered the outlook for further Fed rate hikes. According to Bill Holter, the decline in the strength of the U.S. dollar is a growing concern, exacerbated by ongoing developments that challenge its status as a safe haven currency. Holter emphasizes that recent events, notably the potential for political instability within the U.S. government and uncertainties surrounding President Biden's position, can exert downward pressure on the dollar's value. After a brief arrest in the hush money case, Donald Trump launched a scathing attack on U.S. President Joe Biden and accused him of destroying the country. He said the world will soon witness World War III under President Biden, and the dollar, which countries keep as a reserve currency, may no longer be the world standard. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in 200 years. Regarding the role of currencies and their historical evolution, Holter points out a significant shift from when currencies were backed by tangible assets like gold. He contrasts this historical norm with the current state of affairs, wherein the U.S. dollar maintains its widespread recognition as a global reserve currency, even in the face of the considerable national debt carried by the United States. He suggests that if the U.S. dollar loses value, it could trigger problems for other countries relying on it. We will now bring you clips from Bill Holter's interview with Liberty and Finance. But before we do, if you want more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for more updates. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
What just came out a week and a half ago? The FDA said, yeah, ivermectin works. Ivermectin's safe. And what were we listening to during COVID? Oh, stop, y'all. It's for cows and horses. Don't eat horse paste. That, again, goes to everything is a lie. Everything that they tell us, every time they try to push the herd in a direction, they do it with another lie. And I think it's important. These lies are starting to unravel. And one lie that's going to unravel, in my opinion, as I said, I think Biden's either going to step down or get impeached or whatever. But that's going to hurt the dollar. It's already hurting the dollar. I mean, foreigners, how confident can a foreigner be that wants to put money into a safe haven? It used to be the U.S. because we had a hard, fast, and just rule of law. And the rule of law now is gone. And to see the leader of the United States, took millions upon millions of dollars in bribes, how much confidence is that going to give to foreigners to put money into the U.S.? And I've said this for 10 plus years, the entire system runs on confidence. And the point I'm trying to make is, as these lies, and there's so many of them, as these lies unravel and get exposed, confidence is going to break more and more. And if you go back to 1929, that was an absolute disaster. You had the 1930s, you had the Great Depression. It was not a fully global problem from the standpoint. I mean, today, everything is global. Trade is global. I mean, pretty much all countries do business with the majority of the other countries as far as trade. Same thing goes for finance. But back in the 1930s, because we didn't have computers, we didn't have instant information, and there were areas that were completely unaffected by the Great Depression. Today, that's not the case. And one other big important difference was, back then you had currencies that were real money. they were backed by gold. In other words, dollars were derivatives of gold. Dollars were exchangeable into gold. Today, that's not the case. The case today is probably 60 to 70% of the central banks worldwide use dollars as their main reserve currency. So you're using a currency that's issued by a bankrupt, by an insolvent entity. What happens when the U.S. goes down? Are these other countries going to be unaffected? No, their central banks will collapse and their currencies are going to collapse. So this is truly, it's truly a global event, whereas the last, real bad depression was not totally global. Yes, it affected Europe. Yes, it affected the United States. Asia was relatively unaffected. You had Russia relatively unaffected. South America, Africa. I mean, where were they back in the 1930s? I mean, they were still probably still sending smoke signals for communication. So today's different because it's all engulfing and information is pretty much immediate. And the other thing is from a supply chain standpoint, you didn't have back then, you did not have just in time supply chains. I mean, you had logistics, more difficult logistics, but today you could have one thing break in a supply chain and all of a sudden the car doesn't get built. We saw that with chips. There's so many industries now that are just in time inventory that if something gets tripped up, the final product is not going to be made.
Holter believes that the current global situation is reaching a boiling point. The world is at a critical juncture where multiple crises converge, creating a sense that everything is coming to a head. One aspect of this instability is the geopolitical shift. He points out that the United States is losing its dominance in various areas, including finance, military, and global reputation. He highlights a significant shift in power dynamics with the East, particularly China, gaining influence on the world stage. China's political and economic rise has led the European Union, the United States, and other powers to change their approach to developing international standards in significant technology areas. This is a domain largely dominated by the West, but one in which China has become more strategic and assertive in recent years and where it now enjoys greater influence. Let's get back to the interview.
Everything is at a boiling point right now. I was a broker for 23 years. I was a branch manager for 12 years. Up until 2006, I went through the 87 crash, the sovereign debt crisis in the early 90s, the long-term capital in 1997, the dot-com bubble, and ended up leaving the country prior to the great financial crisis because I knew something very bad was going to happen. And then obviously I've seen what's happened since then. It just feels to me that all of those crises wrapped up together, we're at the doorstep of the culmination of all of it. Like I said, everything is boiling at this point. I mean, if you look at geopolitics, there's no question about it. The U.S. is waning and the East is waxing. The U.S. is losing power no matter where you look, whether it be financially, militarily, reputation-wise. I mean, foreigners are looking at the U.S. from a rule of law standpoint, and they have to be laughing. So from a geopolitical standpoint, the U.S. is, at this point, probably have lost the leadership of the world, but at least is losing leadership to the world. And I think the only comparison you can make, and in the article I talked about, or I just mentioned that from the 1600s on in the West, you had the Dutch leading the world, then you had the Spanish, then the French, then the British, and then the U.S. after Bretton Woods. I think the only real comparison that you can make of a power, losing that power would be the Roman Empire. The United States, I mean, obviously from a time standpoint, the Roman Empire. But what the U.S. has done, what they did as far as building power and what they've done to lose power, completely dwarfs how bad it was Rome's fall. I mean, this is a changing of the guard, and at this point, there's nothing that's going to stop that. Internally, politically, think about all of the divisiveness that's going on in this nation. You've got right versus left. You have racial disparity. You have gender disparity. You have vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers. You've got maskers versus anti-maskers. Divisions, and I equated it to a pie that now has 100 different slices. It's been sliced and diced 50 times, leaving 100 pieces. And the problem is those pieces that get cut in half. It's not. I mean, it's past the point of dislike, and it's entered the realm of hate. I mean, you've got just all you have to do is just look at social media and see the violence and anger between two different groups. So politically, this country is so divided, and it's being divided more and more every day.
If the dominance of the U.S. dollar fades substantially in the future, it will likely have more to do with poor management of the U.S. economy. Do you think the recent events and concerns about the U.S. dollar will impact its role as a global reserve currency? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and enable notifications to stay informed about our latest videos on silver, gold, and copper. Thank you for watching, and we appreciate your support.